that I have and this knowledge that's coming through me. And I just want to share it. I want to co-activate the other guardians, give them what I'm getting, and then encourage them to give me what they're getting. But people are scared. People are scared to put their face out. People are scared to make videos. People are scared to even type a comment. It's insane how afraid people are at some things.
You're right.
And
Yeah.
so I've just had to be extra loud and annoying because I've been able to break through. And I know that that's going to serve people, because I was also like, I want to be so annoying that people want to make content to outdo me, and
Yeah, or
correct
about
me.
you, or they're reacting to your thing.
Sure,
Yeah. They're like,
stimulate
no, you're
something.
no,
And
you're absolutely right in that
the light
sense.
codes is just like, here, take the codes. Let's share the codes and the keys, because they've been locked within us on purpose, so we couldn't keep ourselves safe and potentially get harvested. So ooh, that was fucking scary. And I didn't like that. But we've definitely moved through some really dark timelines, and we've popped through a lot of really awesome progress. So it's now
Nice.
beyond what I know is possible. And I'm sort of just catching up on the daily. And it's like catching up, because I've already kind of moved through the prophecy that I was shown all at once during one of the days. And the one thing that's coming through still to fix is like the financial switch is still a little weird. And that's one of the hardest ones, because it's basically just like the life force of humans and what they're going to do with it, how we're going to organize it. Because everyone had just given it out and not been using it. They were like, I'm going to store my life force here and not use it. And bank account. And you're like, no, you're literally giving yourself cancer. Like,
no, yeah, money is energy, and
you
people don't
literally took an
understand
organ
that.
out and went, I don't need that. Let's put that over there. It's like, no, you need all that. Stop. There's nothing to save for. There's nothing else gonna happen. Like, you got to be in the now, and you got to be putting your energy directly and fully in what you're doing all the time, and not sequestering it off and hiding it. But planting seeds is one way that works for that. So planting seeds in people's minds with images, like subconsciously, like even just making memes and graphics. That's all you had to do to subconsciously wake people up, because if they see one word more than like 7 times, then it comes to the conscious mind. So if you can make something a term, like, and you don't care, like whoever's going to see it, your duty is to plant the seed in their mind of good, of something. And that is, you're the gardener at that point. You're actually using your energy to invest in ways that make sense to me and in the progress of what we're looking for. So that's also what I've learned, is like how to code people's subconscious for the good, because they've been so much coded for the dark, because that's the primary thing they do is repetition. And so your subconscious believes it's reality, because that's how we work, but they're just using our animal brain against us, basically. And I went into psychology to learn all this stuff right before I woke up, and I still didn't know what the hell I was going to do to help people. I tried to become a teacher, and then I just watched the demons walking around behind people, sucking energy off of them. Like, it was crazy. And I was just like, what? I survived all this, and now it's just everywhere. As soon as I had waken up to that, I couldn't be in normal society anymore, because I was realizing how terrible the hygiene was and how all these systems were built to feed these demons, basically.
Yeah, it's too much of a farm. If it's too much of
Farm, yeah, it was a
farming. They're
farm.
really farming your soul in a sense.
And they tried to
And
farm mine.
yeah,
I've had to replenish a ton from going to school.
oh, absolutely. I mean, school has been, yeah. There's it's definitely designed to, put you in a very fixed framework of ideas, and
Breaking.
there's no sense of consciousness expanding. It's all just, consciousness oppressing and constricting in a way. There's no breaking free from that kind of
No one's
mold they
getting a
like to give you.
creative idea.
No, yeah.
Was a big one. And then 2020, obviously, but in a different way. And now this year, we're going to remember it for a different catalyst, I guarantee. And it is all this stuff that's happening right now. All this stuff is new. To have train derailments, balloons, all this crap. None of that's ever happened before.
Yeah. Are you feeling any sort of nuclear reality? Can I get your quick opinion on?
I don't personally. I do know that there has been some leaks and there has been some poisoning I saw just today that there is some sort of nuclear leak on one of the islands in Hawaii from like one of the telescopes or something, apparently, which is strange. And then obviously the Fukushima thing was, in my opinion, a real thing that happened. And people argue with me about this one, but I feel like it was. And I feel like I felt the wave come across the ocean and wash over the North America. I remember those days where it was just like, this is the radiation from Fukushima. And I just felt it. And I just it happened decently recently. I think it was I think that was also why 2020 happened, was because that's when that radiation was finally soaking through and moving through North America. And it was like they needed all these excuses to deal with the radiation poisoning that people were experiencing from the sun and from, I think, Fukushima. But that's just my guess. And I just had so much memories of my Japanese life, and also why we made the anime TV shows and why they were released in the 90s, and what they were meant to do was to like literally wake up the people in North America and the children to...
Wait, please get into that, because my favorite thing is Naruto. So my favorite thing is Naruto in the world, and that's I have to because I literally had these weird meditations where I've gone into these weird headspaces and going, you know, Naruto's real, right? Like, you know, like even in their newest stuff, there's like there where they bind demons to them, and then they eventually become friends with their own demons, and then their demons actually, and then there's characters that go into sage mode, and then there's characters that have these crazy alien parasites that take over their bodies, and then part of them's deformed, and then they have to use it. It's like I think that's pretty close to reality, you know. And there's obviously ninjutsu and stuff, and genjutsu. It's like this is real, right? Like, I've always kind of had that subconscious feeling of, hey, is it Naruto like actually happening?
It's funny because the house I moved into, this house has a ton of Naruto codes because the two children who lived here absolutely loved it. And I began watching the series for the first time, like during 2020 lockdowns and stuff. And I think I maybe got to like episode 30 or something, but I haven't fully gone in. I also have to watch Dragon Ball Z from the beginning through. That's another one. So those two, and that's definitely more obviously the masculine awakening, the like that side. And what I was coded with and what I really watched was the Sailor Moon series. So that was made more for me. And also, what else was it? Also Pokemon was also part of that. So that was interesting. But those four are definitely major keys. And I believe that potentially even you and I, or our gen, was in Japan because they had an ascension and sort of awakening ahead of us and began building these codes into these shows to awaken us as we incarnated here on this landmass for this time. And for us to remember our own abilities and powers and knowledge through these television shows and stuff. And I think that was a part of our mission right before this life, really, which is kind of is a bit far-fetched, but that's what I was getting about myself. And it was because they got ahead and because they had that spiritual power, because Japan is amazing and it's still like that, but it's still like it's like locked down in weird ways and stuff, but not. It's like patient is almost like the energy. Like it knows, it's like the sleeping tiger or something, like the sleeping dragon is like, it's like, we don't need to rush. We already know, like kind of energy.
Yeah.
I also feel like that's why that poisoning happened there, to like drop them back down frequencies, because they were gonna like
they were
come
already
out of resonance, and maybe those shows and all that work they did wasn't gonna be able to make it or cross. So I know this is kind of wild, but I do have these ideas, and I tap into other land masses and their realities and stuff. And Japan was like so cool in being able to create visual representations and consumable content about these true things and make it consumable for us, but also somehow a deterrent for the adults as well, because of the color and the flashiness. And it's like, oh, it's for kids, but it was like adult proofed, like for the most part. So they didn't know what we were going to actually learn from it, or try and push us away as much. I'm sure some parents did. And they freaked out, but I think it was this huge saving grace. And like I said, kids are being programmed with it still. Like kids under 10 are watching and loving Naruto and all these shows. And it's like, these are 30 years old, you know? These shows are like, I don't know actually how old, I think, how
20.
old is 20?
20.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah,
little,
like
yeah.
it's like
It's
20 to 30 years old, which you'd be like, how is
20.
this still relevant for the
Yeah.
kids now, right? But it's
Mhm.
like even more. It's like this stuff is so good, it's still necessary. It's still proliferating through and planting those seeds in our kids to like reactivate their powers. And it's amazing to watch a kid explain Naruto to you, and you're just like shocked. Like I was just shocked. I was just shocked at it. And I was just like, we're in good hands. Like, thank you. Like, I was so happy. Like, yes. And I'm like, you're my new best friend. Like, never leave me. Like, I'm on your team, homie. Like, whatever you say, I'm doing it. Like, I trust you, because even I wasn't even able to fully engage the energy of it, but I want to more. But I just like, they have the time in a way. They aren't quite needed in the field all the time like I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they're getting the codes and they're prepping and they are hungry for it. Like they're all in martial arts too. Like they're
Mhm.
all taking martial arts. All my friends' kids, they're all on Facebook showing their kids with their belts and doing their whatever, and they're serious and they're like training these kids. Like these warriors are here, and I was just like, yes, yes, so happy. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that's a part of it, and the color and the aesthetic of it all and the imagery of it all. I'm an artist too at heart, so it's like very much joyful for me in different ways, and I use them as codes now to wake people up. Also, Avatar: The Last
Oh,
Airbender
of
was another
course,
one
yeah.
that was kind of like the Americanized, like they went
Version,
the
yeah,
opposite way
yeah.
almost.
Yeah, I
And
get a
they're
lot of
bringing
hate for
that back.
saying
It's
that,
the
but it
anniversary
is.
today, actually, of
Oh,
it.
seriously?
I
Oh,
saw
no.
of it, and um that's been a new one I had to integrate too. And they're doing more, and they're going to be re-releasing. They're still doing content with these characters and with these themes. Like it's still going. So
Mhm.
it's cool because then you don't have to catch up so hard. Like, nothing's changing too much, but I still have to catch up and get some codes from these shows for my own inner child, because I was attacked as a child from watching them,
Mhm.
from what was roaming around in my parental guardians. And I just avoided them. Like, ooh, whatever they don't like, I don't want to push it. It was never worth it for me. So
Mhm.
now as an adult, I'm like catching up and feeding my inner child this stuff now, because I wasn't even given permission to feed my inner child at that age. It was all controlled. It was very weird. And
Mhm.
I mean, as an adult now, I'm just glad that I'm not the only one doing that. I'm not the only one catching up because of the whatever coercion and subversion they received as children. Because it was so easy just to, bully bully people out of it. You can bully your own kid out of doing stuff pretty easy because they want you to love them. So it's pretty easy. But like that's also what I do workshops about, is kind of like dealing with those traumas also. And each month we tackle a different thing slightly. And March is going to be fun though. For some reason, the theme that came through is luck. Like I get the theme, and then it allows my own soul to unlock it from my own trauma. It's like I'm also breaking the stuff off of me when I do these workshops. I'm using myself as the like ground zero, ripping off and replenishing all these issues. And I'm just so happy. It's such a helpful thing. Like all of your healing things you do is also intended to heal your own soul. But you have to come from what you
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah.
And I feel very empowered and happy. I go through my struggles, but I've I've been feeling really hopeful. And this next few years, I think we're on the rise. Like there's not much else that can stop this morale boost that is coming. Like you can't scare people into a worldwide pandemic again.
Yeah, they can't pull the same
That has been desensitized. We've been
yeah.
desensitized to that. We're being desensitized to sky anomalies, to disastrous spills and freaking hurricanes and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
desensitized
Well,
super hard. So I don't
yeah,
know.
there's so little trust in whatever comes out of the machine anymore that people just
Good.
like brush it away. You just mentally, you just I just
I
don't
can't
even
wait.
think about it, It's always just gonna be another false flag.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're breaking through, like,
Yeah.
and then we're just gonna be watching these kids like whoop, like float off the ground. You're like, oh, I guess that solar flare was a gooder. Like,
Yeah, I guess because we can
there
do that,
goes
I guess.
Cindy. She's flying, like, and
Cool.
we'll be like, whatever. Like, it
Mhm.
won't even bother us.
Yeah.
I can't wait. We're gonna have a lot of fun these next
Yeah.
few years. I feel it in muscle. I feel like we're engaging that childlike energy too, because it's necessary. Like the inner children are gonna lead us.
Hmm.
True. It is the truth, I think, of our soul. And we just kind of reintegrating that because a lot of us basically got it beat out of us, but we're in that last gen, like just at the end of it, where we were just totally disregarded our inner children. And now we have parents that are nurturing their inner children, and they're messaging me like, my kid remembers all their past lives and keeps telling me they're my grandpa and like they're flying. And you're like, yep, keep going, like encourage it, like, and people do, they're not scared. It's our gen is having these kids, and we're able to finally protect them to be their raw self. And so unfortunately we may be a little jealous about what they're able to do, and we're not going to be able to do maybe, but I'll just have the satisfaction that we protect them so they can do what they need to do, and that'll make me feel purposeful.
Yeah, facilitate their development and their growth.
And
And
we get to be the lovely old grandparents and just
the boomers,
elders.
the future boomers.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Nice. One thing I do want to cover real quick too is just because you mentioned it real quickly. Do you remember? Do you have distinct past lives about Atlantis or a realm you'd like to share really quickly? Because I definitely remember. Because this was interesting. Because I remember I felt like this is gonna sound so weird. Please. Hopefully this is okay. I know. This is this is the weirdest thing that's gonna be said. But I remember your part. I'm like, you seem very familiar. The first time when I saw you in that thing, it's like, oh, I've experienced this before. Not only in when I was going through my attack, but I was like, I've noticed part of your face before seemed very similar from some sort of realm. So when you're like, oh yeah, Japan was something too, and I've always loved Japan, so I'm not at all surprised in a sense. Do you have a lot of past life? Because I get sometimes weird images where I'm like my first memory is like a past life memory, and I get these weird images sometimes where I'm like, that definitely happened. That's not just a dream. Or that sometimes it'll happen in my dreams and stuff. But
that's one thing that is essential for us right now, is to remember and understand each other's soul template. And so we know who we are, what codes we have, and also who our counterparts are also, and how, those templates are here still, and bringing them back in and owning them and just being mature about it, not being like, commercializing it, but being aware of what template you're holding. And that's very important to me right now. So this question's important, and I want people to explore this also. But yeah, with Atlantis, I would say Atlantis, I just learned when the fall of Atlantis happened, and it was the 31st of October was the day before, the 1st of November was the day of, and the 2nd of November was the day after. So that period of time I've been fighting with the last few years, especially because those memories are coming back, because the Atlantean kings and queens, I think there's 12, basically are being reactivated, because the earth needs that template. The earth needs those beings to be here, to be holding the grid. And being a king and queen is not a fancy job. It's just like being a lighthouse or a node. It's like being a lightning rod or something, and it's just a part of the structure, the geometry, like you said. I don't know specifics about that yet, but that is something that I just learned about the fall. And that's why they like to celebrate with the demons and everybody on the 31st, because that's like the last day that the demons were allowed to be here. And like, that's why they party with them that day. And then the first is like the purge, and like everyone's hungover, like no one knows anything or cares about November 1st. Like it's this weird emptiness space. And then, the second is kind of, what do you do after Halloween? Like, let's move on. And that's one thing that's coming through for sure, is like the kings and queens of Atlantis and needing to know who they are, because you'll know them because they have this serious sort of energy, like unwavering also, but this responsible sort of, almost like a tired grandparent energy, like just nothing really phases them, but they know they have to continue doing their job and holding their form. So that was one thing, but a lot of it also is Egyptian that I've been getting more. Obviously, a lot of people will say that they get Egyptian energy off of me like right away. And okay, and another one is the basically the crew of Jesus Christ and his apostles, like as well. Like that's another big theme that's coming through a lot. And it's the thing is, like, when you claim things too, people can have that vocab to attack you. Basically, they can have that vocab to just fight against you, because that's what people naturally do. They'll like hear something and then fight you. And so claiming or telling people things doesn't always help, but because they'll just be like, well, no. And then you're like, well, you can't just invalidate my experience the first 5 minutes that we've ever had a discussion. So don't really care about your opinion on that, because I didn't even care about this a thing. But guess what? It's been happening for like 10 years trying to tell me this information. So I'm just going to maybe now work with that template and see what I can do and see how that works. And people will see me, they will see my template, they will know how to treat me. And they're also activating their templates, and they are aware of what gods and goddesses and stuff that they work with. But I've gotten a lot of info, which I can tell you privately, but
Of course,
what I
yeah,
see,
yeah, well,
but it's, yeah, also the Japanese past life was one that was kind of more fun and playful. And it was like this little blip of time. And they keep showing me that I got to look up the staff of the original creators of the Sailor Moon show, basically, and see if there was this like fellow that I see this image of. And he's a gay man, basically, who was part of creating this show. And that's who I see as one of those past lives, which doesn't have to do with any royalty position. But otherwise, there are very strong archetypal beings that are coming in to try and claim that I'm in their template or that we are together. And then there's off-planet stuff that comes in. And a lot of people see me as a full-blown alien entity. And some people see me exclusively as a Venusian. And people will pick and remember me from different times, it feels like, too. But even me, and I can see people's templates too. And I'm like, you are, Diana, like I know you, like this Wonder Woman right here. Like I have those people, and I have my people, and respectfully, like, and they take on the template, they take on the role, they are who that is person, who they act how you would expect them to act. And you can rely on them to be that person too. So I am curious what you remember or what your first impression was, but it sounds like Atlantis is the first thing that came in. But I've been men and women.
yeah.
But more so women, I would say. But it was
Yeah.
One of the bigger ones that's kind of like more generalized is Hatshepsut, which is the king, or like the only female pharaoh. I mean, the only female pharaoh of Egypt. And that was one that came in a lot. So I'm working with that. But then there's Seshat, the goddess in a way, who is like the female Thoth, basically, in a way. So that was another template. Or Iris, which is the Greek version. And it's kind of like the rainbow bridge and the scribe. And she also deals with the floods, like knowing the boundaries of the cities and stuff after the floods and stuff, which is what's coming through for me a lot. Is like the boundaries of the flood is coming through for me a lot. And Edgar Cayce's maps and comes through. People are like, do you know Edgar Cayce's maps? Do you know? And I was like, yes, like I do know, and I've looked at them and I know. And then there's more recent people like Edgar Cayce and like Dolores Cannon are two guides or so on that I've been working with, I feel like, more, and they're been nudging me along from the beyond in a way, but the Edgar Casey thing is weird. His energy is different. I know David Wilcock claims to be him incarnated, so it could be, but I've physically been in, I've talked to David physically, I've had discussions with him, so I've engaged his soul. And that was kind of a deal. And then like people claiming to be the blue avian beings, I've engaged with them and they're like, oh, you're a bird. And I'm like, like, okay. And these sort of things. And I just usually nod and go, oh, and I'm not like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I like freak out about it. It's just like, it's almost painful when people are like trying to tell you what you are, because you're just like, it's so much more than that. But also like, the seriousness of being called out for what you are is also kind of intense. So it's kind of like it's a mixed emotion, because we're on a mission. Like, this is serious. Like, I don't need to be anything, but it needs to get done. Whatever I am, I have to do it. And so I'm like, yeah. But right now we have this. And it's like, maybe you'll remember me looking like this next time, because this is going to be a big one. Like, the last thing they told me was pretty intense. And I was like, oh, people are not going to be receptive to that one.
Okay.
Not going to repeat that, but
okay.
I've already had to a couple of times, but we'll see. So it's weird. It's
Mhm.
like, what's the point? A part of me too is like, what's the point of getting this data at all? Because it could distract you from your current incarnation. But
It does. I think it does.
That's been the question. But
It's cool. I think it's because I was actually thinking about this. I think it's awesome. I think it's cool. And I think it's like, oh yeah, I remember you from past life. Dope. What's up? It's been like 10,000 years. I remember you from this planet. Again. Hey, what's up? So there is, I think, part of that I love. That is cool. But I totally agree and share the sentiment that, okay, we're here for a reason. We got to do this thing so we don't not do them, we don't want to not do what we're supposed to do here as humans. So
yeah, like an archangel in a human suit, you're like, well, I'm not really human, but neither are you. Like, neither are any of you. Like, human isn't real, like, we are not what we are claiming to be.
yeah,
we're just like a fractal piece of a much bigger being and a much bigger soul group, and somehow needing to keep putting our reality here. And I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm woke up here again. Like, okay.
yeah.
This is where it's at.
Okay.
I keep waiting to wake up somewhere else, and it's nope. Yeah. This is it. This is where the party's at. So I'll have fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get to go to Venus, sometimes I get to go to the moon, sometimes I get to go to Mars.
What's the energy at the moon? Whoa, hold up. What's the energy at the moon?
Not good. I mean, every time I've been there, I've been with a cluster of basically refugees or something that are living in like the rundown of old prisons and structures inside that are just like, don't have any resources much left, and they're kind of out of touch, and it's trying to figure out how to get these people to be in resonance to like live on Earth or find somewhere to go or have some resources again. And it's more desolate and not cute every time I go there. It's kind of like you're taking care of the like remnants of a collapsed prison colony, basically. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So, and the Bifrost from Thor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that they had one there, and that's how you can like shoot yourself to Earth and back from the moon really quick. So you travel down that light beam, apparently. So that was a cool part of it, at least. But then I went to Mars, and I saw they were doing like a full-blown, like, genetically completely change your body to be like basically a video game character, but you're permanently like that. You can't go back, and then you're just put out there on the battlegrounds, and you're just like doing whatever you want, like shooting, pillaging, other, things. What's the word I want to say?
Grape?
Things not of God.
Yeah, no.
And they're lost. Like, it's basically like they're stuck, they're irreversible, and it's like people who get stuck playing their
VR set, virtual,
yeah.
Or they're playing Red Dead Redemption 3, and they're like, "Oh, this is so cool! I get to shoot people."
Exactly.
This is so cool. There's blood everywhere, and the graphics look 8K. It's like, guys, it's like, I think outside's better. I think
but for some people, they get a thrill out of it, right?
Well, at first you're like, whoa, Mortal Kombat's cool, but then instantly after an hour, you should realize this is horrible. Video games suck, you know? Like that's another thing, a contentious, thing that it's like, video guys, we have to stop believing that video games are cool.
Yes.
You know, this total simulated reality. Since we're already in a simulated reality, it's like we're just playing too much Inception. It's like,
Yes.
we're in some sort of Inception thing. I that popped up on my suggested feed all the time for some reason right before this. So I was thinking, like we don't want to get into an Inception realm. We're in some sort of like distorted time thing where a video game is that, and especially the viewing, pretending like you're this character and like you're achieving something. It's just because they know it from a literal standpoint from psychology, so it must be bad from a spiritual perspective. It's got to be awful. It's got to be just like, why would you do that?
Yes. It's the total materialistic like side where but then there's no miracles, like you're having a conversation and then a hawk flies over your head and you're like, that's the real conversation. Like that's the real game, it's talking to you all the time. And I enjoy the non-physical, like there's stuff we can't even perceive, but I know that they can see me and I know that I'm talking to them and I know we're having fun together, like the Fae. And how do you befriend the Fae? You begin picking up trash. You pick up the metal and the plastic out of the forest floor and away from their spot, and they will just keep bringing it to you to pick it up, and then they will bring you other stuff. Like they brought me a fully mummified toad and frog as well as like a gift as the guardians of the land here in the desert. And it was like, here, after I was picking up trash, and I was like, oh my God, whoa, like never seen such a cool thing. And they give you gifts, like it's great. And then there's like the whole Sasquatch situation. Like they're my family. Like I know these beings so well, but it's like they are ahead of us. Like they're trying to get us to catch up at least a little bit, because there's a whole other part of management. Like the trees and the Sasquatch, they're managing our planet on a different level. The whales, they're already ahead. We don't even need to be the ones who are the leaders. Like there's already leading. We're catching up in a way as humans, but we are so blind that it's like, we got to be the ones. We're the smartest thing on this planet. It's like, no, you're literally being able to get this free time to hopefully catch up to the leaders of this planet.
Yeah. No, I know. It's so funny.
It's reassuring.
I know it's good. It's just, I was just thinking like it's just so obvious. It's painful,
But it makes me feel good. Like I don't have to figure it all out. I have older brothers and sisters in a way around me that hold me and help me when I don't know what to do. When I'm so lonely sometimes, and then they give you something, you fall upon something, and you're like, love is real. Like this, I am loved. There's a friendship. Like I feel kinship and friendship with my reality too, and these beings and stuff. So that's what I want to help people find again too. And that's why when we did the Vortex tour and stuff, like that's my shit. Like I was like,
that was amazing too. I've always wanted to do some Mateus level stuff like that, and that was a thing off my bucket list. I want to do that again, obviously, eventually, even down the line.
Yes, and doing it with people who actually came there specifically to do that activity instead of all of the activities. Like, no, we're going to the Vortex and we're gonna do the thing. Like I've done one. I did a 7-day one where we did 7 days, 7 different spots in Sedona. I did it for free, and I was like, I just led the whole thing, and it was so rewarding and amazing. And I even had people being like, you can't do that, and blah blah blah, like resistance. And it was just crazy how stupid the resistance of something so simple to do, like just literally showing up at a freaking mountain, shouldn't be that complicated or that disturbing to anybody. But and I've just been able to, and I've had dreams where it was like, I've had dreams where they've discussed with me how to be a king or a queen and how to deal with that. And basically, like, the peasants only care about their problem, but the monarch cares about everyone. So they have a totally different perspective and have to sort the peasant who is freaking out about his cabbages, oh, it's the end of the world for this one guy. You're like, yes, and all of this as well, but of course, and we'll add this to the pile. Thank you so much. Like, of course, your concern matters, but you are clearly not considering anyone else except for you. And you're trying to tell me what to do while I'm taking care of everybody,
Yeah.
it's that energy. And it was like, you
Yeah.
just have to
Yeah.
politely somehow be that way with people. It's like, yes, and thank you. And anyways, the entire realm is needing this. Like,
Yeah.
uh, it's two different mindsets. And
Yeah.
they can flip, like they can become that patriarch or that matriarch, and they can begin considering that, and it's coming from that perspective. Everyone can access that. But if you don't have it, then you will notice who has and who doesn't think that way pretty fast. But yeah, so kings and queens, we're here to reactivate the god, goddess, king, queen, and templates and people, because there's plenty of need for taking responsibility and cleaning up and reestablishing some things here. It's like the perfect time. Everything basically needs to be redone.
Yeah. All right. With that, that was a perfect ending. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. This was a marathon, so thank you. We covered so many topics. Thanks again, and I'll obviously put all your information in the description. And thanks so much for doing this podcast. Thank you again.
of course. Thank you for being so cool and letting me chat with you about my favorite things.